I went on a 10-day silent retreat, and I couldn't bear hanging with myself, being with my own thoughts undisturbed, so I left. Halfway through, I packed my bags and walked out the gates. Let me tell you the story of how that all unfolded. I started meditating about 11 years ago, and the reason I know it so precisely is because it was a solution to ease my anxiety after a knee surgery that left me on crutches for 3 months. And about a year later, I went on my first retreat, a 10-day silent meditation retreat in Thailand. It's called Wat Suan Mok. It's outside of Suratani on the southern east coast, and it's a Theravada Buddhist monastery. I randomly heard about it because back then I was working at a research institute about nutrition and microbiology and food processing, basically. So we had this industry conference with lots of lectures and workshops and things, and one of them was a motivational speaker. I was sitting in the audience and I was quite bored. And then she started talking about this monastery in Thailand, a silent retreat that she'd gone to, and my whole body woke up. It was like I was on full alert. I was breathing in every word she was saying. And then afterwards, I went up to my hotel room, and something in me was, we're going there. I remember thinking, we're not going to Thailand. We're not going to fly all the way out in the outback of some Thai village, go to a monastery where you cannot book a place. They have a monastery or a silent retreat that starts the first of every month, and you can't sign up. You just go there and hope that there's room for you this month. But the decision was already made. It wasn't really up to me. So I did. In February of 2016, I went to Thailand. So it's almost exactly 10 years ago today. And I don't know what I expected. I had never been on any kind of organized meditation. I didn't watch YouTube or any kind of spiritual. There was no teaching in my life about meditation whatsoever. For a year, I did my own meditation. I had a book or two or something, and I meditated on my own. And this was my first step into started learning more about meditation rather than my own exploration. So I think I thought that, okay, well, 10 days of silence in like a teaching setting, that's gonna help me advance. That's not really what I rocked up to. You arrive the day before, and then you get to stay in the monastery with everyone else who wants to sign up. The monastery is in Thai, but they do once a month an English version of their silent retreats. So there was lots of foreigners there. And we got to stay in the main monastery buildings. I initially got a floor bed, just on the concrete floor, a little thin mattress. And then I went to the bathroom, and across the floor came crawling the biggest scorpion I'd ever seen. It was this big. It was huge. And I felt I won't be able to sleep. That thing, it's going to push me out of bed if it approaches me. So somehow I managed to upgrade and get a little, it's like you get a 10 centimeter off the ground next to some Dutch ladies. So I managed to get some sleep, and then early in the morning, everyone walks together across this beautiful path with palm trees, and the sun was coming up, and we were about 115 people, I think, and they have just over 100 spots. So it was a bit of this, is someone not going to get in? Like, you don't want to be the last one ending up at the actual silent retreat gates and perhaps not get a spot. But this time everyone did get a spot. And so did I. And the first day, you do get to talk with other people. So I had a few interactions. And surprisingly enough, there was one Swedish woman there. I'm Swedish. And for some reason, makes no sense, but we realized we were going home on the same date, flying to Gothenburg, both of us. So we exchanged numbers. And then we all had dinner in the evening, and we were assigned our own little bunker. It almost looked like a prison. There was a male dorm and a female dorm, and you got into this little concrete wardrobe with a little gap that let some sunshine in. And it was basically just a concrete bed with a thin mattress on top of it, or it was made of bamboo. And then you had a pillow. I'd read about this pillow before. It's made out of wood. So this beautifully little sharp shaped, dark wooden head-shaped pillow. And then a mosquito net. And that was basically it. My body is used to comfort on a level that didn't match this bed. So I slept horribly. And then early in the morning, I think it was about 5, the gong went off. And that meant silence, no more talking. And there was no electricity in the monastery. So you had this little lantern because the sun had not gone up. So you had this little lantern with a light in it. So you turned on the light, and then you found your way over to the meditation shed, I guess you could call it. It was a big shed, like a shaded, it was a roof, but no walls. And then it was like sand on the floor, and you had your little meditation cushion. So you walked over there, and everyone was coming out of the jungle and these little huts on the different dorms with their little lanterns. It was quite beautiful. And I remember feeling absolutely tired, but very excited. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. This is what I'm here for. Let's do this. And we sat down in front of this little stage, I guess you could say, where there was a monk sitting in his orange robe, looking like, for me, he looked like the Buddha. And then there were 2 more junior monks sitting on each side of him. And he started by introducing that this is the first meditation. He was speaking in such a calm and alive voice in English, but with a very strong Thai accent. So I had a bit hard time understanding everything he said, but his whole aura was just so kind. He was just radiating. And somehow that made me feel safe. But he didn't say a lot. I think he spoke a few sentences and basically said, and now we meditate. And I remember thinking that that's it. No instructions, no help with where to focus my attention, but just now we meditate. So I closed my eyes. I sat in this very good meditator position, and I closed my eyes. And I was so proud because I did really well. I was sitting there, noticing my breath, noticing my thoughts, breathing in, breathing out. And it went perfect for about 10 minutes. And then I kind of figured, well, I had enough. This is as long as I have ever meditated. I'm done. I don't know how to do. So I opened my eyes and glanced over at the rest of the 100 people. And they were all sitting in this beautiful Buddha postures, looking completely serene. And I was really annoyed. I was like, how the crap are they doing that? This is boring. This is super boring. But then I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this too. So I sat back in my meditation posture. But the restlessness started to really build up. And I was starting to have these of like, they can't do this to people. They have to guide us more, and they can't just leave us sitting meditating. And I had this whole argument going on inside me. And then I caught myself of like, yes, but now you're here. If you want to change the routines on the monastery, I'm sure they're very interested in your thoughts. But right now, maybe not do that. Let's do something else. And I twisted and I turned, and my body started to ache. And time, I didn't have a clock to look at, so I don't know. It felt like we'd been sitting there for 7 hours, but I knew it was only a 1 hour meditation. So somehow I managed to get through that hour, but it was torture. For me, it was torture. And then we had breakfast in silence, and that was actually really nice. We were sitting in these long tables, and everyone had their little porridge or some kind of lukewarm rice. And there was like a sense of community, almost like when my mind wasn't forming words, when I wasn't listening to what other people said, there was a serenity, a sense of companionship and community, even though I didn't know a lot about the other people and we weren't interacting. I realized how rarely in my life I've ever sat around so close with people without having the mind going back and forth with the other person. So there was this surprising insights that happened that had nothing to do with meditation. That was more like a teaching of life. Yeah. And then after breakfast, there was a bit of taking care of your personal hygiene. And then during the day, it was a bit of walking meditation, a bit of standing meditation, I think. And then there was a few of these Dharma talks where the monk who was kind of guiding the retreat was talking about the teachings of Buddha. And I found them quite fascinating. I didn't understand half of it, partly because I couldn't always follow the English, but also because I hadn't heard Buddhist teachings before. So they kind of landed in my mind, but I didn't really understand them. I think I was still hoping for more concrete advice on how to actually get through those hours of sitting meditation. Yeah. But I made it through the first day, a bit shocked, but yeah, still kind of proud of myself. And then in the evening, I went to bed and I found this huge spider just beside my door. I mean, I say it's like this. I don't know. It was like, it had such long legs. And I'm not a big fan of spiders, but I knew that the rules of the monastery was ahimsa, so non-violence. So we weren't allowed to kill anything on purpose within the monastery. So it's almost like I was looking at the spider of like, okay, so it's you and me in here, buddy. And well, it's not only you and me, because there's a huge gecko lizard in the ceiling as well. Going these, if you've encountered geckos, they go like gecko, gecko, sometimes during the night. And I knew before that they ate spiders. And I knew he hadn't taken a vow of ahimsa. So I was kind of looking at him of like, can we please solve this problem? But actually, I think the spider was about the size of him, so there wasn't much hope there. But I couldn't really settle with the idea of going to bed with this spider next to me. So somehow I managed to gather enough courage we had these little bowls that we used to wash ourselves because there was no running water. So you kind of washed yourself in a well or a puddle of water. So I went out and got those, managed to catch the spider. My heart was going at probably 200 beats per minute. So I got the spider, felt like I walked because I couldn't carry the spider and the lantern, so I kind of had to walk out in the dark. So I didn't dare to go too far away from the courtyard. So I got rid of the spider, had this shivers, went back inside, and tried to lay down on this bed and my wooden pillow. But I was quite exhausted because I hadn't slept the day before. It's been a confusing day for me, so I did manage to get some sleep anyway. But when I woke up in the morning, the spider was back. It was sitting pretty much in the same position. And I don't know, it was like the world did not make this easy for me. Yeah, I felt like the challenges of this place are plentiful. So I lit my lantern, left the spider there, figured that if he found his way back, then, well, namaha, may it be so. And walked over to the meditation hall, sat down, not feeling quite as cheerful because now I knew what an hour of sitting meditation in this shed would entail. It would be pure agony. So I sat down, did my good meditation posture, probably only made it 5 minutes this time. And then I was so bored. Then it really started to build up. Like, this is so boring. I'm gonna physically implode from boredom. And my mind started going like, I can't sit here anymore. Just get up, get out of here. And then I had to wrestle with myself of like, you traveled from Sweden to Thailand to be here. And on the second day, you've already decided to give up? No, I'm not dealing with that. My dignity is at stake here. So I made an agreement that I'm not going to walk away from this meditation. So the sun had just started to come up a little bit. So I started to look at this tree trunk in front of me. I was sitting pretty far ahead, so the tree trunk was maybe 10 meters away. And I looked at the tree trunk and I was like, I'm imploding. This is it. I can't stand this boredom. If it gets any worse, I'm not going to manage it. And then it kept being boring. I kept looking at the tree trunk, looking at the people around, back at the tree trunk. And somehow an hour passed and I didn't implode. And that was quite fascinating for me because I'm not sure I'd given it that much thought, but part of me believed that boredom is like, it's like an increase. Once it started, it's gonna continue to become worse and worse and worse for infinity. It's unbearable. You cannot allow it to just keep going. But that didn't happen. It was just boring, and then it was boring some more. It didn't escalate. It's like boredom has a roof to it. And that was, yeah. I was 30 plus years when I realized that. Yeah. I could keep going because there's so much richness in every. I mean, it's been 10 years, and I probably forget about the timelines and what happened on which day. That's not so interesting anyway. But yeah, the richness of those days. But what I wanted to come to, I don't remember which day this was, maybe the second or the third day. Each evening, we got a cup of sweet tea before bedtime. So, no, it's the opposite. We got a cup of hot chocolate every evening. And I was really looking forward to that. That was like something exotic, because on this silent retreat, you were not allowed to read anything. You were not allowed to listen to music. You were not allowed to dance. You were not allowed to do exercise. It was strictly going inside and being with yourself. So this little cup of chocolate was like, it was a feast. It was a party for me. So one evening, I came to get my chocolate, and the guy poured me a glass of water. Oh, the fury. I was so angry inside. I was ready to like storm the gates. I'm like, this is not okay. This is the one thing during the day that I actually look forward to. And you give me lukewarm water. I don't know how well I contained it, but it was fury within me. So I took my cup, I went and sat at the table. And then in all this bitterness, I was going to drink it and realized that it was sweet tea. It was delicious. It was even better than chocolate. And all of my fury and anger just went away. And I think that during that day, the Dharma talks or the Buddha talks had been about that. How our minds and our expectations create suffering for us. And here I'm sitting with my hot, sweet tea that 30 seconds ago caused me so much rage. It was like it was designed by some divine force. And but these like throws of like these minimal things all of a sudden becoming so big, like they create a storm within me. Yeah, it was fascinating and exhausting as well. And these of the insights not necessarily coming from the meditation. I also remember one day we were standing in line to get dinner. It was quite delicious dinner. It was one of those really well cooked Thai curries. And the guy in front of me, he got his like this green curry, coconut liquidy thing. And he dropped his plate on the ground. It was like a concrete ground, and there was this metal plate. So it fell over, it spilled and splashed on everyone else in the line. And then it made this roll across the hallway and ended up in this like dunk. So there's like 100 people in the hall. Everyone turned around and looked at him. I was standing right behind him. I can see his terror, and I had this really cute joke coming up that would have been so reassuring for him, and it was really funny as well. And like my whole energy force was like wanting this joke to come out, and I knew it was silence, so I couldn't. But you know, when you're like almost like a 5-year-old, it's like standing on their toes, wanting so badly for this to come out. And I was observing the whole thing because I've been meditating all day, so I could like been really focusing on the inside. And I remember thinking that this could possibly be the best joke at the right timing that would create like a love flow, and the world will never hear of it. It's a waste. And then this other little voice popped up, but you heard it. You've already laughed at it. You've already felt the sweetness. It has been validated. And it was like, you know, when you're jolted by a clarity, it just dawned on me that me validating myself, my experience, is enough to validate what goes on. I don't need someone else to confirm. The joke has already been seen. It has been cherished by me. It was never uttered out loud, but I saw it. I was there. Even to this day, that insight alone is worth so much boredom. That I can validate myself. My attention is valuable, even for myself. And I forgot about the joke, so it's forever lost. And the guy made it through, spilling the food. He got fed. The floor got cleaned. Things worked without any words being uttered. Yeah. But after the second night, when the spider came back, I never really had a good sleep again. And the wooden pillow, well, I was not a big fan. Even though one of the monks, he had a talk with us. He was quite a young monk, and he said that I love my wooden pillow. When you wake up, you want to sleep no more. I was like, yeah, well, that it does do that. No morning snuggles in bed with a wooden pillow. So yeah, I guess it fulfills its function. Yeah. And somehow I also thought that monastery life was a very strict and boring life. But this guy had so much humor. So it kind of cracked my the stereotypes I had about people as well. And we were not allowed to have phones, obviously, in the retreat. And on one meditation, this lead monk was sitting and these two youngsters beside him, and we were halfway through meditation, and then a cell phone goes off. It starts ringing, and it rings for like a few seconds, enough for people to start opening their eyes, looking around. And then one of these young monks, he's jolted by lightning, starts fiddling with his orange robe, gets up his cell phone, presses, like probably declines the call, puts it back down, and then he goes back into this posture, but you could see like he's just radiating with shame. And the lead monk, like he also sees all of this unfolding by the side of his eyes, and he looks at this young monk with just so much love in his eyes. You know, it's like he could feel, like those seconds that played out, the teachings of that, of like, you cannot spiritualize away your humanity. We keep being human in whatever robes we have. And love is such a dissolver. Yeah. I still get so touched by playing that scenario in my head. It was still very challenging to meditate though. So every evening from the second night on, I decided that tomorrow I'm going to leave. I cannot do this. My mind is constantly battling with itself. It evaluates me, the monastery. It has opinions about everything. I cannot listen to it. I need to distract myself. I need to go out. I need to go to a nightclub. I need to go hiking. I need to go swimming. I need to talk to people. I can't do this. And then in the morning, every time after breakfast, they had this almost like they opened the gates. So anyone who wanted to leave could come to the reception and get their things and leave. So one morning I went there and I said, I can't do this anymore. I need to talk to someone. And one of the organizers, or the women running the retreat, I got to walk in and sit and talk with her. And I just told her about my frustration, and she was so sweet, saying that I'm free to leave whenever I want to, but I could also just give it one more day. And she kind of reassured me that somehow I was validated that there is freedom. I can leave whenever I want to, but I don't need to. So I decided to stay because part of me really wanted to do this, to do a 10-day silent retreat, like to make it to the end. There was something about completing it, but also knowing that I'm not sure I have the willpower to do that. But one more day, I could do one more day. So I made it through one more day, sitting meditation, standing meditation, walking meditation, sitting in silence, eating in silence. And then we had gone into the scenario of the retreat where there was no dinner in the evening. So you had breakfast and you had lunch, but then you had no evening. And then you had your sweet tea in the evening. I really cherish the sweet tea. So that evening we made it to the sweet tea. I got a cup of hot water, made it to sit down, and this time it was only hot water. It wasn't sweet tea. I hadn't eaten since lunch, and what was left in my cup was hot water. The fury I felt about the chocolate, it was nothing compared to this. Any kind of spiritual high ground I had mounted myself up of being able to do this and mastering meditation, it came crashing down over a cup of hot water. Yeah. And I think I decided that evening again that I'm leaving tomorrow. And the next day, I actually did. I went to the reception and signed out. I got my phone, I got my books back, packed my bags, and saw the statistics as well. I wasn't the first one to leave. I think 20 people had left already. And they arranged for a taxi to come pick me up together with another guy who was also leaving. And I remember feeling so much freedom walking out. I thought I would be disappointed with myself, but I wasn't. It was like finally being able to breathe again. That had been quite overwhelming. But I made it to Khao Lak, which is on the west coast of Thailand. Checked into a hostel and went down to the beach and had dinner, basically. And I was sitting there thinking like, wow, I really cannot hang with myself. This is, we need to work on this, Josephine. We need to check out what's happening on the inside that makes you unable to be with yourself. That means constantly running away from your inner world. That sounds like an exhausting way to live. But a 10-day in silence might be a bit stretch. Yeah. So my 10-day retreat actually ended up being a 5-day retreat. And coming back home and telling people about this, leaving the silent retreat early, I got the feedback of people thinking I had failed somehow. But for me, it didn't settle as being a failure because I wasn't sure when I thought about it that I'd actually set out to endure 10 days of meditation. I think I set out really to deepen my meditation practice, and that had happened. I'm not sure I would have gained so much more out of staying another 5 days, of actually making it to the end. I would have probably had different teachings, but I didn't miss out on the teachings. Even the decision to leave is in itself a teaching. Of listening to myself, of feeling that part of me that's just aching for freedom and rejoicing in the world, and also sit with the part of me that's disappointed, that wished I had been more at ease with my inner life. Seeing both of them play out. Yeah. And sometimes I think that we don't know what the teaching is going to be, and finalizing something, what does that even mean? It's like a goal we put out for ourselves, that a 10-day retreat needs to be 10 days. We don't know what the teaching is going to be. And all of the Buddha talks or the Dharma talks that the monk did, they somehow lingered in my system. And over the 10 years since this incident took place, it slowly popped into place. It was like, that's what he was talking about. And as I mentioned in the beginning, this was my first encounter with meditation whatsoever. I didn't know where to go to get meditation teachings. 2016, I was not very familiar with YouTube, and there was not that much available online that I had found. But I did exchange number with one woman, a Swedish woman, the only Swedish person on this whole retreat, who happened to live 20 minutes away from me. And when she came back home, she said that she'd looked at me at the retreat and didn't see me anymore. Because I couldn't tell her I was leaving. We weren't allowed to talk. And she was not new to meditation and yoga and Buddhism. So she opened the door to so many adventures back home. She took me on my first yoga festival a few months later. It's called Space of Love. It's out on an island in Sweden. And it's like these openings happen. What do I know? Maybe this whole retreat setting was about going there, meeting her, and have her show me other spaces and other doors that are much closer to home for me. So I'm super grateful for her. I had to go to Thailand to find someone that lives 20 minutes away from me. I'm thinking about why I even wanted to share this to begin with. I think it's because of this. Crushing this notion that we fail on the spiritual path, that there is a specific route that each of us should take, that it's obvious what success and what failure means. For me, it hasn't been like that. This isn't even the only retreat I've left. I left a yoga retreat and another retreat as well. And I left some yoga, mindfulness, meditation festivals as well. From one perspective, you could see it as failure. From another perspective, you could see it as following truth. And from a third perspective, I guess you could see that I don't know what I'm doing. And honestly, maybe that's the closest to truth. Yeah. Because by the end of the day, we're not going to reach more inner freedom, more access to the love that flows through us by being a good spiritual person, by achieving the goals, by doing certain minutes of meditation each day, by checking off as many retreats as we possibly can. No, it's about how willing we are to see ourselves, to meet ourselves, to listen to our own inner guidance, to say yes when there's a yes, and to say no when there's a no. To allow ourselves to make mistakes and learn from them. To hold ourselves with kindness and with laughter. To be willing to teach or to learn from what life is actually teaching, not what a specific teacher or a specific retreat is teaching us, but to learn from life. And that is always available. That is always unfolding and flowing in our everyday life, inside of ourselves. We are the source of our own teaching, so to say. Yes. And we don't know where we're going. We might have a desire or a plan, but we don't know. Yeah. What has it been like for you? Have you had a similar experience, or did this sharing awaken something in you? I'd love to hear about it in the comment section, so please leave a little footprint. And if you're curious for more of my sharings, my thoughts, wanderings, philosophical journeys spinning around themselves, then please do check out some more of my content. And if you want me to pop up in your feed every now and then, please remember to subscribe. Thank you for joining me on this episode, and I hope to see you next time.